What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tottenham Talk. For those of you just joining, Tottenham Talk is a Spurs fan podcast for stateside Tottenham fans who live for the badge, looking for a lively, passionate, entertaining Spurs community. So, Matt, we are here. Deadline day has happened. The transfer market is officially closed in what seemed like a 6-month-long transfer market or transfer window for Spurs fans. It's over. So today we got a lot to talk about. First off, we're going to just talk about our overall feelings on the transfer window. Some of the guys we were linked to early on that maybe we missed out on, Traore, Diaz, stuff like that. And then eventually our outgoings and incomings and how we feel about it. So, Matt, first of all, I know you're pretty excited about a certain player, but I'm going to need you to hold that excitement, all right? Hold that excitement.
Hey, back that up, man. I'm excited about everything. I'm excited about
everything. All right.
But you do have a point.
So let's get started. Transfer window. Going into it, we thought this might be Tottenham's biggest January window of all time, right? We talk about Paratici giving 150 plus mil, all these rumors this way and that way. Adama Traore was supposed to be almost set early on in the window. So we got a lot to talk about. I mean, first off, I kind of want to address the rumors of the guys that we're supposed to get that we missed out on, like the Traores, the Luis Diaz's, right? So when you look at a guy like Traore, the moment Barcelona came knocking, we were never going to get him. And it's not because Spurs are that much lower of a club, but it's because it's a Spanish player who started his career at Barcelona, has the opportunity to go back and help them through a real building process, right? There's no shot. We just had no chance, no matter what. So, people were saying, oh, we lost out on Traore to a club that doesn't even have any money, things like that. So no ambition from Spurs. I kind of want to get your thoughts on that, first and foremost.
It's interesting because Traore would be such a big improvement to our squad, especially under Conte. Just imagine him at the, right side, just right wing back position. He could do so much, but obviously that is not reality. But that's okay. But, looking back at it, I'm glad it ended up the way it did. Obviously he wasn't meant for us, and you never know what could have happened with him. We all think that he could have been amazing, but heck, it could have been like another Doherty situation against him. But, we all expect so much, especially when you put all these stats up. It's hard to transfer clubs like that, especially Premier League clubs within a Premier League, within the Premier League. Club-to-club transfers are very, very difficult and still expressing your form. And so I think it was definitely challenging for him, and it all makes sense to why he went back to Barcelona. And, of course, what Xavi's doing over there, I think is fantastic. And so props to him for having that opportunity and taking it.
True.
Even being biased and, being a Tottenham fan, coming from, a home like that, I 100% agree with him going back. But that just leaves a room now open for us to find someone new. And that's what is so big. And and I don't want to spend too much time on Traore because, he's not on our team. So.
No, yeah, I kind of agree.
And this moves on, and I want to move on to like the Diaz situation and like how that was a quickly Liverpool hijack. And, you look back at it and you're like, okay, why is it that we can't spend an extra couple mil to get this guy? Or was Conte sold in this guy? It's something I feel a gut feeling of mine thinks that someone on the board, Conte included, he's not considered the board, but you know what I mean by that in terms of deciding transfers. Someone was not, I think, on lock. And something was off because I don't think the money was the issue. I think we could afford it. We could definitely afford him, no question about it. But Conte's so particular in his players and who he wants this January window going into the summer window. It's very interesting to see how or what factors played into that breakdown. And, props to Liverpool for getting, a quality player. I'm curious to know how the guy's going to do in the Prem. But what are your thoughts on how that Diaz transfer happened?
Yeah, it's tough because at the moment, right, it seemed like everything was kind of in a panic for Spurs. However many 20-something days we had without a transfer. And it seemed like, oh, maybe this will happen. Maybe it won't, right? And it's very easy to get caught up in the negativity of it all, right? Oh, here we go. Here's another couple days without a transfer. Like, what are Spurs doing? Where's the ambition, right? How are Liverpool able to swoop in and capitalize so quickly when we did offer a large sum. What's another couple mil, right? And I think it comes down to number one, what the player wanted, right? Because if the player wanted a club like Liverpool and not Tottenham, there's nothing we could do about that. We don't want that type of player anyway, right? We talked about that with Conte this summer, and if they don't want to be a part of this project, an incredibly exciting project, then honestly, like,
That's
get
on
him
them.
out of here. I don't care about it.
Yeah.
There's a couple worries I had about Diaz was, I personally hadn't watched him play much, and while it was promising, he tied the Golden Boot with Messi in the Copa this summer and things like that, right? That's not easy to do, right? So he's obviously a quality player, but it's such a risk buying players from the Portuguese league. You could get a Bruno Fernandes or you could get a Lo Celso, right? So you really don't know what you're going to get out. And both, a Bruno Fernandes and Gio, they kind of looked like both very promising players when they were bought. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm not super upset that we lost out on him, but also it's like, I'm glad that we didn't panic and say we have to sign him and spend, 10, 10 mil more than we would have needed to. So now we can save that 60 mil that we offered and maybe buy someone that is more meaningful this summer after Conte has, not a full season, but almost a full season to actually look at our squad, look at these new players that we have, how they kind of interact with our current members, and, a further evaluation on, hey, maybe we're now in Champions League at the end of the season and we can attract better players for less money, right? So the fact that we were able to save that money on him and still end up with quality signings, in hindsight, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm glad. I'm not glad that we didn't get him, but I feel comfortable with our top 4 chances with the players that we did get, as well as the ones that the I don't want to say deadwood, but the guys we let go. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on Diaz, but it almost leaves that room for excitement for the summer. So should we talk about who we lost, our outgoings?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to start this, if you don't mind.
Of course.
The first guy I wanted to talk about is Brian Heel.
Yeah.
That was it was a simple loan move just to Valencia for the rest. Is it the rest of the season or for a year?
I think the rest of the season.
Rest of the season. I think it'll be good for him. But what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm gonna go over who all we lost, and then go back. So we lost Dele, Gio, Hill, Tanguy, Markinde, Jack Clark, and Niall John. So Hill was the only one that I was like, kind of like, oh, I don't know about that, because I don't think he got a fair enough chance. We talked about this week in, week out, that if Son's injured or one of our wingers isn't playing up to task, or there's an opportunity for him to play or someone in his position to play, start him up there with Kane and Son and Lucas, right? Because I want to see what he could do. And I don't think he got that chance under Nuno. And I really don't think he got that chance under Conte a whole lot. He'd go in for last 10 minutes of a game. Maybe they're expected to do something great, or we were already winning and, there wasn't much to be done. But, on the other hand, it's hard to dislike a move because he's so young and he's going to be getting a lot of playing experience, which you can't be mad about. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. I honestly was on fully the side of him going on a loan move, because the way I look at it is, he's going to play more. He's also going to sit the bench. Yes, I get your point. If he got to play, I completely agree with putting him up top with Kane, or if Son gets injured, or putting him up top with Kane, Son, and Lucas is up there too, Bergwijn, all those guys. And so, it's obviously challenging for him and at his age, and obviously the quality of the level he's playing at. But he did so well in La Liga, back at Sevilla, right?
Yep.
And him going on Valencia move, I think, will be pretty good for him. So just to maybe get his form back, maybe some sharpness back, but also that confidence. I really think he needs a little boost in morale. Being so young and just kind of jumping into a Premier League move like that, and knowing, hey, I have this price tag, this other guy that played here for this many years came the other way. I feel like there's a little pressure on your back, but I have a little soft spot for him because, we can relate in terms of age, and, taking in that pressure can be a lot. And so I really think he can produce. And we've seen him do really well in certain scenarios. But I really think there's just that one little hump he has to get over, whether that's a goal, an assist, something to get him, back up to a positive morale and feeling confident when he gets on the field. I want him to feel confident under Conte because I think Conte could turn him into potentially like a left like a Region almost, that way. The left side of wing backs. He is a very attacking player, but he could also play central cam. I think there's so many different ways or passes
for sure.
he could take that I'm curious on what we can do, but
I think you made some good points that I really hadn't thought about. Initially I was like, you know what, if we're gonna send him on loan, like send him to Norwich, send him to Newcastle, so get him to a Premier League club so we can get experience there. But to your point, he came in with a lot of pressure, not a huge price tag, but like you said, a club veteran going the other way, and that's a lot of pressure. At the same time, he had one manager that only lasted a couple weeks. Then he had a brand new manager, and then he had to deal with that, and now he's back out on loan again, right? So there's been so many moving parts in his career at Spurs, so far, that I kind of agree. Get him some confidence back, get him to back what he knows, get him back to what he likes. And when he comes back this summer, it's a fresh slate, right? Because he'll have a full preseason with Conte. This is all under the assumption that Conte doesn't leave, because I don't think he will this summer, at least. He'll have a full preseason under Conte, and then be able to start the season off right with Spurs. And, if it's right, it's right. If it's not, it's not. So we'll be able to go from there. But I kind of agree. I think this will be beneficial for him. But honestly, I'm excited to watch some Valencia games because Gio also is there, and also Juan Foyth, and Capu. So like it's kind of Spurs FC over there.
Gio didn't go to Valencia.
Where'd he go?
Villarreal.
Oh, Villarreal. That's right. Well, that's where
he went to Villarreal. That's where Emery is. Villarreal and
My bad.
You're fine. No, you're fine.
Either way, I'm excited to watch Valencia.
Yeah.
Because I didn't watch a lot of Hill when he was at Sevilla. So
it's on ESPN. ESPN Plus has the Lille matches.
Right. Totally.
They're so entertaining.
I'll definitely be watching them. So, all right. Who we talking about next?
Lo Celso.
All right.
Let's do it. Talk about Gio.
See, our buddy AP on Twitter, Aaron Pitters, talked about Gio being one that he was kind of iffy about leaving. And I kind of agree because no, actually I don't. I think if Gio wasn't there mentally and culture-wise, then he had to go. And that had to be the same for any player. We saw that with Tanguy. We saw that with Dele. Players that have huge potential and we know are very talented, creative players. But if they're not there for Conte's system, then they can't. It's not worth it. They got to go. And we have to make that hard choice. And, I think that Conte was a big part of that. And part of why it took so long for them to leave is I think he might have had to do some convincing to Daniel Levy to let that happen, because I don't know if you've seen that interview with Conte and Thierry Henry, Matt, where he asks Conte about certain players and if they don't, work hard or do stuff like that. And Conte goes something along the lines of if they don't work hard or follow what I'm doing, then I'd rather them be dead, sort of thing. And it's just like he has such a high expectation for his players, and there's no room in the locker room for negative attitudes, for people not buying in. And there was so much news and speculation on the way that Lo Celso didn't buy in. He wasn't even involved in the last game that we had. So it's a tough one because he is a creative player, and it seems like all of our creative player options left, and we got two good options. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I think it'll be good if Conte didn't want it, then get him out of here. As much as I liked Gio, and it sucked that he kept getting injured and he never really fulfilled his potential at Spurs. But what are your thoughts?
I just think there's this like overarching issue that surrounds these guys. Tanguy has had tough times with the club in general. Conte has really not liked him much. Take that morale out of the squad, get him out, go. When's the last time we sent this many guys on loan? When's the last time we had this much of an active window? Conte, I thought, was pushing so many limits, during this, but like I think good limits, pushing. Hey, we have to get something done here, and what you guys are doing now isn't right. So let me change it then. And I think that's I saw some tweets in the past about how Gio and his relationship with Conte was horrible, and how they did not get along. And you can't have that if you want a winning, if you want a winning side. Same with Dele. Dele's a tough one because we haven't talked about Dele yet, but
let's save him for last. Let's save him for last.
But I wanted to go after. I want to end with Lo Celso and go into Tanguy about this one
Yes. Yeah.
because Tanguy was somebody who's been through so many managers at Tottenham. Had one, I think, we thought was the uprise of Tottenham Hotspur, and then turned into a shit show. And he basically went through Hurricane Katrina for 4 years there
Yeah.
for a player, I'd say, for what you expect, right? You know, getting paid $200,000 a week or a little shy of that, you know, having that big of a salary coming in, and then, you know, you have an expectation for the quality in the club you're playing for, of course.
Right.
So he's a very challenging player because I really like him. I really liked him back when he was first at Lyon and he came here, but you know, it's so ironic that he's there back and the buy clause is the same amount we bought him for. I don't know if you know. I think it's kind of funny. And so,
well, that's like peak Daniel Levy right there. Is I'm not losing any money on this, right? The biggest Spurs signing of all time. Yeah, the bye clause. You better bet it's gonna be like that. So,
but like, I want to know, like, before we get into your thoughts, like, I want to really dig deep in Tanguy's transfer in relation to Dele's sale and how those maybe correlate. I feel like those have some sort of connection with each other. I feel like the Lo Celso and Hill was just more, hey guys, we got to get you out. I don't know. I think Tanguy and Dele just something.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you mean.
Has some connection, and I that's why I'm saving Tanguy here than Dele's last. Yeah. And so I want your thoughts.
Yeah. Let me talk. I'll talk about Tanguy, and then we can kind of move into Dele. But Tanguy and Dembele, what a player, right? We saw the moments, the flashes of brilliance that he had, right? That we saw what he was capable of, but we never saw it realized on a consistent basis. And Conte started saying when he got here is consistency is everything, right? We got to start being consistent. And that was such a Spurs trait. It correlated to the term Spursy a lot, was that how inconsistent we were, you know? One week we can beat Man City with Nuno's Tottenham on the first day of the season. And the next thing you know, we're losing to Chelsea 4 times in 1 year. And it's so hard to believe that Tanguy didn't pan out. But at the same time, like you said, if this attitude and as many chances as he got with as many different managers as he had, it wasn't going to work out. And if it wasn't going to work, it wasn't going to work. You can't force something, right? Especially in this sport. So get him out of there. Let him go be happy where he wants to be. He wants to be in France. Like I you know, it's almost similar to the Traore situation, right? Where he's going back to France. You know, I think he'll be happiest there and he'll succeed there. I know the cultural change coming to England was a big part of it. So I think he'll succeed there. I really do. I don't think he'll pop off necessarily like this season, but I do think you'll start to see Tanguy make an impact for Lyon, right? That's where he went. Yeah, yep. He went back to Lyon. So like
where he came from.
So I think
he'll do just fine there. I think he'll get totally. I hope just he gets him back. I just hope he can get back to
it's a Renato Sanchez situation almost when in other situations, you know what I mean? Like I know Renato had that one.
Renato started at Bayern. Well, he didn't start. He was in, you know, he's Portuguese, but he came from what I remember was Bayern, and then went Bayern to on loan. He went to like Swansea.
Yeah. So like he had it was another situation.
Terrible. Yeah, and then now he's at Lille. Now he's doing well.
Yeah. So it's you just got to find the right fit for a lot of players, which we'll talk a little bit more about that in terms of our incomings. So, but let's talk about Dele. I think we need to preface this with almost an appreciation statement of the player, because I don't know about you, Matt. I was reflecting on it today, and you know, I'm sure people saw our tweet about it, but I think we got to give him thanks. I mean, some of the best Spurs moments that we've ever seen as fans and might ever see in certain moments or in a way, it came from Dele, you know. And I'll never forget when my family and I, we were sitting in Colorado watching the MLS All-Star game versus Tottenham. We see this new kid on the bench, Dele Alli. Who's this guy? I remember me and my dad were talking about it, and we saw him play a little bit, and it wasn't anything. I didn't think any of it. And next thing you know, I mean, what a player. You know, he goes from League One to the Premier League without any issues, you know, and the potential that this man has. I mean, people were talking about him being future Ballon d'Or winners, like literally. And for him to have such a fall from grace was so hard to see as a fan, because you have this expectation for your team and for your players. but at the same time, you care so much for them, And I mean, heck, we named our dog after him, right? Like, what do we do now? Change Dele's name? So I just I wanted to say that because I think he deserves that. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that Lo Celso and Tanguy don't, but they don't in a way, because what Dele gave us in his prime years, and who knows what this reasoning is for. I mean, we've talked about it, I think, at least 3 or 4 different episodes, and that's not even counting all the times off mic we've talked about it. The Dele situation, the Dele dilemma, it's such a hard concept, but I had to give this message of thanks because he deserves it in all reality. So I don't know if you have any thoughts as well, but.
No, you're good. Yeah. I honestly, I can't back that or top that at all, because you said that, I think, beautifully. You're 100% right in terms of the appreciation factor. In my computer is now, there we go. And so, it's like very hard to see, because looking back, there's so many incredible things he did. Games against Chelsea, the little kick over his head against Crystal Palace.
The headers.
Headers. He brought a different life to the game. He brought a different life to he was definitely, I think, a good chunk of the upbringing of Tottenham. And I think he has to give himself some credit for sure for that, because he did leave a expectation. He left I think he left a pretty solid legacy foundation of not only the type of quality player he was, but what a young guy can do to a club like that.
Yeah, totally.
And for the longest time, it was just he was the young one. He was the young one, and he just brought life to the players. And he was, it's just so motivating as a fan, and seeing it as a fan after games, when they're smiling, they're happy that they, had a good performance, they won, that confidence not only comes into us as fans, but these players got confidence. The team has a confidence, and then so do, the managers and the staff, and so on and so forth. Everyone does. And it's just, totally. It's incredible what, his personality brought. And so I thought what you said was perfect. And I think that's all we got to say about him. But I wanted to, before we talk about, I want to talk about his relation to Tanguy, because I mentioned that previously in this episode, and I wanted to reiterate about how Tanguy's form and Dele's form, I thought, was very consistent with one another.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to me that I caught this little theme between them two. And, I can remember a lot of flashes, like little back heel that Dele was falling at West Ham under Jose, boom, or at Sheffield, Tanguy, plopping that one, goal, chips the keeper, under Jose. Oh, yeah. Literally just under Jose moments, right? And so it's just kind of interesting. And I wanted to kind of take your thoughts on how maybe their form was in relation with one another, and how now, since they're both gone, including the other guys maybe as well, but maybe more these two, how much more of a different atmosphere the squad's going to be, because these two didn't just go. Conte obviously was a huge part, and he obviously didn't want them. So you have the floor, Clay, and I want to hear this.
So I think that's an interesting point you made. I mean, I think both of these players, we've talked about it before, and other players, I think they're both very, what's the word? Self-motivated, if you will. There's not outside motivating factors that I don't think are gonna motivate these guys. They're motivated, and I'll speak more to Dele than Tanguy, because, like I said, I don't think Tanguy panned out as he should have, and Dele did in a lot of ways. Like you said, though, he fell from grace a little bit, and I think they're very self-motivated in the terms that they got to be loving the game. Dele in particular, he has to be loving his game and loving his football in order to be playing well. The smile on his face, the shithousery that he does at Arsenal games, at Chelsea games, and all these big time games when he knows that he can do it, that he knows that he can beat these players. I mean, in the friendly we played against Real Madrid when we first had him, and he nutmegged Luka Modric. I mean, it's things like that. That's just the love of the game that helped him, that kept him going. And I think he lost a little bit of that while he was at Tottenham, and it wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It could have been the Champions League final loss. It could have been the manager changes. It could have been the neglection he had under Jose. It could have been a million things, right? And I always said I wanted him, if he was going to leave, I think he should go to a club like Everton, a club with historical prominence, and that is not a top 6 club by any means, but it's a bigger club, and it's still an English club, and he can be a part of that rebuilding for them, right? He can be a part of helping them reach whatever they're trying to achieve. And without Dele on our team, I think we'll miss a little bit of that fun-loving attitude that he had, which when he was not playing well, looked like he didn't care. But when he was playing well, looked like, wow, what a guy. You know what I mean? And it sucked that it was seen as 2 different ways, because he was always just being himself. One times he was just playing well and one times he wasn't. So for me, these 2 guys, they got to be loving their football because they are so creative, and you're going to see dinks and chips and tricks here and there, which a lot of times pisses us off. But when it works out, it's beautiful. And that's just their love of the game. So that's my little rant, is that I think Tanguy and Dele both need to enjoy their football more than be motivated by external sources. So Conte knew that too. He's not dumb. If there's anyone that's going to motivate players, it's going to be Conte. Like Eric Dyer is a great example. Eric Dyer does not need, he obviously, everyone needs to enjoy their football, but not to that extent, right? Like he talked about how the way that the manager pushes them, and he's just a bulldog. He's gonna push through, right? And that's not what these players were. So getting them their new chances, their new opportunities. I'm gonna watch a lot of Everton games. I could just say that. So
I would agree.
Yeah. I think that's all we need to say about that.
Stuff.
All right.
Before we saved the floor. Let's get into the fun stuff.
We saved the floor for Mr. Kuster on this one because he's got a special player he wants to talk about. We know our incomings, 2 Juve prospects, the Paratici Juve links. Could they be the wayside at Juve, but could they be the saving grace at Tottenham? That's the question, Matt. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Dude, I can't pronounce the other guy's name, but I know it's Kulusevski for one. Dejan Kulusevski is the guy that I freaking love. And then Bentancur. Yeah. He's another youngin from Uruguay, I believe. 24, 6'2", DM box-to-box beast in the midfield. I am so flippin' excited for that kid. And he was bought, which is fantastic. That was a sale. And then on top of it, I'm going to put all the hype right now on Kulusevski because I personally just have I'm a huge fan of this guy. I don't know why, but ever since I saw a little bit of him at Juve last year, watching a little bit at Juve last year, and then I was like, okay, this kid's kind of good. Played at Sweden in the Euros, killed it at the Euros, and then because oh my God, Sweden was low key stacked, and then after they got into or out of the Euros, obviously I was just excited to see what he would do in the following year at Juve. And he hasn't really got much playing time under Allegri that I was hoped for. But he still has been able to produce a couple assists, a couple numbers and, here and there. And the age he is, dude, 21 years old. He's literally younger than we are. And it's just fascinating to see what he can bring. And I'm so excited because he's going to be, he's got so much support behind him with the board, with, whom he's being coached by. And, I really think he can produce very positive performances, not quality-wise, but, with positive morale too. He's also that youngster. I think he'll provide more quality than Hill did, personally.
Yeah, he's got a little more experience too.
A little more experience with that high level. I would say that Serie A is very similar to Premier League if you were to try to compare. I would say the closest would be Serie A, as you can see most transfers, at least that I see, go in between, Serie A and the Premier League. But, it's definitely interesting to see, what he's going to do. But he's that winger that Conte's wanting. He's that attacking player that he's wanted. And I think he is going to be somebody. Oh my God, I'm so excited, dude. I am so excited. I just don't have words, man. I don't have words. Like, I can't back up his performance because of my career mode statistics on FIFA 22. So I won't say those. But, this man has potential. I think he's got sown potential. He has got sown potential, 100%. And I believe I think he's left-footed. I think he's left-footed.
He is.
And he's going to do something. He's going to really do something. And I really hope he lives up to my hype because I'm going to look like a dumbass.
Hey, we've all been there. But I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think he can play in a lot of different places. I think he can play the cam, and I think he can play on either side. I also think he can play as that second striker with Kane. So, oh man, Matt, I think this is really exciting.
And then on top of him, like even Bentancur.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm incredibly excited. I'm more excited about Bentancur because he's a DM / box-to-box midfielder, like you said, but he has creativity. Like he's not a creative player per se, like Lo Celso or Tanguy, but he has creativity. I mean, the way he wins the ball back and finds passes and finds feet, man. He's gonna be a lot like a don't do.
He's gonna be a lot like a
Kovacic. But
if I think that's relation to someone.
I expect him to be better. I'm so excited. I mean,
he's 24 years old.
Yeah,
he's bought, which is fantastic for under 20 or about 25 million.
I mean, and now if you look at it, we have 5 midfielder options. I mean, if you count Kula at going to play in like a cam role, maybe not, but we have 4 at least with Bentancur, Winks, Skip, Højbjerg, and those are not bad options to help us get to top 4 right now. I mean, they might not be elite.
Well, this is the thing is I'm curious to know what's going to do now with Højbjerg, and Bentancur and Skip. Because they're all DMs, or not all essentially DMs.
They're similar players.
2 of them, Skip and I would say Højbjerg and Bentancur are more similar in terms of play styles. Because I feel like when we bought Højbjerg, he was so up and down the field.
Totally.
Wasn't so much of a DM as we thought, or as I thought. But I'm curious to know what Bentancur can do. I mean, I'm excited to see both of them. I mean, that's also a link between 2 coming from a previous club. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Matt, I think you should have named your cat Dejan.
Dejan, I low-key think that's a good idea. I think it's a great idea.
You know what? I think let's wrap this episode up a little bit. Talk about how you think the winter went overall, and then what do you think? Like, what is this going to look like for the summer? Like, what's your biggest now? Like, looking at the summer window, what is our biggest priority? What should it be? And not that you don't have to give options, but like position wise.
Left-sided center back.
Yeah.
That's it. And I saw a tweet that's what Conte sacrificed this window to get a forward. He goes, I can sacrifice this window. So he's relied on our defense, it looks like, because I saw Jafet was looking at a loan or a potential move this January. And or even in the summer, I'm curious to know, but that's different. So I'm curious. It's going to be a left-sided center back. And I saw sacrificed not getting one this January window to get an attacker. And so I'm curious to know what his thoughts were behind that. And we're going to see that on the field, on the pitch. But I think it's also big because, don't get me wrong, there's definitely, a huge importance on who you get as attacking, but I think there's that much more of an importance on who you buy as a defender.
Right.
And I think the quality I think the decision on buying a defender, I think, is hard to make on a quality one with the level that we want to play at.
Totally.
I think the time he wants to take in the summer to find someone, especially with this.
Like you said, I don't think we want to like panic buy that type of player.
Correct.
I think that's something you need to be patient with.
Correct. Yeah.
And I also think
I'm curious to know. Yeah.
I also think what he's done with Ben Davies and Eric Dyer has been huge. So like,
exactly.
There's no rush. I don't honestly even say that a right wing back is more of a priority than
we haven't been defensively. We haven't had many issues.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No. So
I think it's finishing, it's scoring. We haven't really Conte's expectation back when he was at Inter. I mean, I want to say he had like 35% of the games that he won were 3 goals or more.
Yeah.
Conceding next to none to 1.
Right.
He's winning 5-0, 4-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. There's a week where he consistently won like 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 4-0. And I was like, and so it is just mind blowing how I think strong he is defensively, tactically, and I'm curious to know how attacking wise he's going to be able to. I think we'll even see more from us, like a whole nother side of Tottenham that we haven't seen in a while. What we have seen recently, we're kind of getting back into this positive morale of what Tottenham used to be. I think there's a whole other wave coming of good.
I totally agree. And to close it out, I think this window was a success, and it may not be what we hoped it would be going to be, but I think it was a blessing in disguise in a lot of ways. So looking at who we lost, and a lot of people are saying, and I want to address this issue or concern, is we lost so many more creative players, and we lost so many more players than we got in. And that's okay, because if those players were, just an option on the bench and sitting there, but they were bad for the locker room, bad for the training field, bad for morale on the team, then they needed to leave. And the fact that we were able to make that choice and not make other panic buys, I think we're sitting ready for a successful summer window. We'll see what Daniel Levy thinks about that. But all righty, Matt, another good episode.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, Twitter @_Tottenham_talk. And as always, come on, you Spurs.